It's one thing to be able to say you own a BMW, another to say you have an M variant. M stands for motorsport. It also stands for more motoring enjoyment. This week the car file opens on the classic M1, the M3 Evolution and Coupe, and on the Z3 variant, the M Roadster.
This is one of the road cars that racing drivers queue up to drive. It's BMW's M3 Evolution. M stands for Motorsport 3 for 3 series, and Evolution means that BMW have been trying to recreate the glory of the original, now classic, BMW M3 of 1987. A terminal velocity of 155 miles an hour. 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, and stunning brakes. 60 to standstill in just 2.8 seconds. In fact, the brakes are so good, you'd be wise to keep an eye on your rearview mirror, just in case the guy behind you is about to ruin your no-claims bonus. This car is the nearest you're going to get to driving a British Touring Car Championship car on the road. I think BMW have found themselves a bit of a niche in the market. This car, in this trim, is £43,000. And there really is no other competition at this price level. The nearest is the old-style Jaguar XJS 4-litre at around £45,500. Now, the supercar class doesn't even start till you get to the entry-level Porsche 911, and that's £60,000. So what we've got here is a bit of a bargain basement supercar. And what's more, it's a Grand Tourer. It's got 4 seats and a boot. Okay, it's a bit understated, and it doesn't have the looks of a normal supercar. But that's no bad thing if you want to avoid the attentions of the boys in blue. It may be the poor man's supercar, but at this price you're not exactly going to be skinned, and you're certainly going to expect something special. And if you are tight-fisted, well, you can always opt for the coupe at a mere £37,000. The real soul of this car is BMW's classic 6-cylinder engine, now reworked to produce 321 eager Bavarian horses. They're whipped up and reined in by high-tech electronics and the infinitely variable camshafts. That's a lot of grunt, but even so you do need to push the car hard to get real performance. However, there is a flip side, and that's the sound of the 3.2-litre engine under full power. I'm a racing driver, so unless you're as mad as a hatter, this car really is as safe as houses, but it will still get the adrenaline to flow. I'm in deepest Cheshire at Alton Park, a twisty and demanding circuit, so I have to use all 6 gears to hustle the car around. I prefer the sequential shift myself, which is an option on this range, since it's not only quicker, but it's what I'm used to in my race car. Dislikes? Well, the main one has to be the steering. Not only does the wheel feel too large, but it also feels over-geared. And then the column itself is just not fully adjustable. On an all-too-typical public road with its bumps and potholes, this car tends to shake and rattle a bit. That's probably because it doesn't have the stiffness of the saloon or coupe versions. However, it's as sure-footed as a centipede. This is partly due to the limited slip differential, which helps keep the tyres impressively in contact with the road. There is a tendency to understeer when the car is pushed, but that's no bad thing as it helps to keep you out of trouble. There really is oodles and oodles of grip. And if you go one oodle too far and manage to turn the car over, then it's comforting to know that automatic roll bars pop up at the back before you're able to chop off your passengers' heads. And talking of passengers, I've never been in a convertible at 155 miles an hour before, but it sounds as though I'm sticking my head out of a window of a jumbo jet. Overall, well, yes, there are 1 or 2 flaws, but it's a great buy and practical with it. And best of all, it has sizzling supercar performance. Which M3? Well, the convertible's a lot of fun, but you certainly need the sun. So I think I'd save myself a bit of money, and I'd go for the coupe.
Von BMW, dieser IAA, das BMW M Coupé, Hello and welcome, Mr. Bangle. You're
Thanks,
the
Sonia.
chief designer.
Yeah.
And tell us, this car is really different.
Yeah, it is. It's
something
great.
special.
This is. It's really a real fun piece. It's something different. It's not just a Roadster growing up. It's a Roadster of a different style. This is its sister in the garage. A lifestyle car. This coupe that comes from this tradition. You know, we had great sports cars back, Mille Miglia. They all had this type of form. And here now we had a chance to do this, but based on the Z3.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. It looks like the Z3. The front part here.
Well, yeah, we started with that and we decided to keep all that same feeling that the Z3 had, this big swing in from the doors into the body, but still, let you carry some of your lifestyle with you, some luggage, bring it along, have a different kind of car, but a pure sports car.
Ian, the Frankfurt show for BMW. You're breaking away from this traditional image of the conservative BMW, the German company conservatism, with two quite unusual things. Yeah. First of all, the Z3 Coupe, which is very, very striking, whatever people thought about it. Here it is in the flesh. How does this sit alongside the Roadster?
Yeah, I guess it's BMW's going away from convention with this car. And I guess the term wacky springs to mind in some ways. When you actually see the car, then the concept starts to fall into place, because it's for those people who want all the performance of a Roadster, the two-seater, but they've got more space. They've got a fixed top on there. So anybody who wants to carry things like a roof rack, extra luggage, skis on the top, going skiing, absolutely perfect, yeah? And you've got all this space in the back. And also, because of the design of the car, because you've got a roof, which makes the chassis very rigid, you've actually got much better performance. So it's a good all-rounder.
So you don't lose any of the performance, any of the handling that the Roadster has got at all?
Not at all. I mean, it's all enhanced because of that rigidity. So I think people who drive the car will find the performance is just that bit heightened.
And are we going to see the same kind of model range with the Z3 Coupe? We're going to see the 1.9, 2.8 and eventually the M Coupe? What are the plans for the future?
Right, well, we're starting in Britain. We're going to bring in the M Z3 Coupe with the 3.2 Motorsport engine. In Frankfurt here today, they've got on show the 2.8. We have no plans at the moment to bring in the 2.8, and there is no discussion at all about whether we go to a 1.9 on that. But so for us, it's the 3.2 M version.
And when will we expect to see this?
We can see that sometime next year, end of next year for us.
And any inklings about how it's going to be priced? Will it be a similar price to the Roadster?
Yes, it'll be similar to the M Roadster, which is being launched again here today, which we'll have in Britain at the end of this year.
Do you think that people are going to buy it? Do you think they're going to, they're actually going to go for it in great numbers?
No, I don't think it's great numbers. We're looking at a niche market here, so 150, maybe 200 cars in the first year. But then if we do decide to bring a smaller engine in, the 2.8 version, for example, then maybe we could come get more volume there. But it's not going to sell great numbers. It is a select model in a niche market, and that's what we're aiming for.
After the Second World War, there was an enormous shortage of materials and of fuel, and this led to the phenomenon of bubble cars. This one here is an Italian model designed by ISO, which was called an Isetta. It was actually designed for the Italian market, but a struggling BMW in Germany took the rights to this and put their own motorcycle engines in it. They were 250cc, and this was vital to their maintenance of business until they could develop big models. They even manufactured them in England at a deserted railway buildings in Brighton. Apparently, all the supplies had to come by railway, and all the workers had to trudge 100 steps to work. Nearly 25 years later, BMW again looked to Italy, but this time for another kind of inspiration. On the race circuits, their CLSs had begun to age, and the Group 6 racing had become so extreme they were really virtually F1 cars with two seats in them. Group 5 was a more interesting prospect for them. It was called the silhouette formula, and the basis of that was that you could do nearly anything with it, providing the silhouette of the car looked like a road car. So that was fine. They had a fine engine. They had the 6, which had a 3.5 straight engine, but they didn't have a body. There had been a 1972 exhibition car, which was called a dream car, which they had shown around the circuits. And they had decided to take that to Lamborghini, who were experts in specialist cars, to see if a production car could be born out of it. However, Lamborghini too were having trouble, and they couldn't pay their bills. So in the end, BMW had to take production back themselves. Now the delay caused enormous embarrassment to BMW and actually allowed the Group 5 racing to be dominated by Porsche with their 935s. As a result, BMW were really in a bit of a corner. What they did was to create their own one-make series. Many say the greatest one-make race series ever. It ran in all the European circuits alongside the Grand Prix, and it was called the Pro Car. It created champions with Niki Lauda and Nelson Piquet, but it only ran for the 2 years. Then BMW really could do little else, and they stepped back into the shadows and left us with just a handful of beautiful, true supercars. That was the BMW M1. The heart of this beast is under here. It is a beautiful 3.5 4-valve per cylinder straight six, one of BMW's finest machines. It uses a light alloy head, and it has a dry sump which allows a much lower profile within the chassis and therefore makes the whole body that much more slippery. The exhausts have been sculpted and moved as far as possible away from the heads to try and keep cooling, which is always a problem with mid-engine cars. And their crank itself is even forged in steel so as to make sure everything is perfect. There is, just for a bonus, chain drives that give you an extra soundtrack when you change down and power away. The body itself is designed by Ital. It is full of lovely design codes, these louvres which do a job both for the passage of air and to keep the sun from this window. The body itself is very simple and was from time to time criticized for not being flamboyant like Lamborghini's, but that is BMW's style. You can tell what's going on. The P7s on the back are bigger than the ones on the front, which gives you a clue of performance. The suspension is all wishbone, which is what you'd expect of a race-proven car. And little details like this, the vent for the back of the radiator with that very, very famous badge, the BMW. The interior is pretty much what you'd expect. It's the high qualities of the time, and it's full of the nice trim and all the details you could want. BMW tell me that all the dials are original and dedicated just to this car, and certainly they're all written in German, which would be compliant with the fact they only made those in that factory. The overriding feel here is of sitting very far forward, which is similar to the F1 cars of the day. The straight six engine behind us really does take up half the car, so you are sat very close to the wheel and quite close to the head. It's a compact feeling made worse by the very wide tunnel here and the curves to the window, so that you are very isolated from your partner, but very close to all the machinery behind you. It's a very exciting car to drive, but it's actually quite docile, and providing you're sensible with it, you can do long journeys easily. Probably the hardest thing is the gearbox. Where you'd expect first is reverse, and first itself is a dog leg down, which you then have to cross up into second, which is fine, but the clutch itself is a double plated and it's very heavy, and you come a long way up before you engage. So to be a good driver, you have to practice this thing quite a lot. Let's try. The car is actually something of a Jekyll and Hyde, because if you're driving in a higher gear, the engine's remarkably docile, as anyone with a big engine, the BMW, will tell you. It's quite a decent ride. The visibility from the front is actually quite good. It's needless to say dreadful from the rear quarters, and out the back it's just a matter of luck if you spot anything. The clutch is very hard and the travel is very long, so you do have to get the rhythm. But once you have, it really is exciting. You could question whether this is just a BMW poser's car, but the answer is very simple. All you have to do is change down a gear and sneak those cams past 3,500 revs, just as we are now, and it comes alive. You really then have to be a skillful driver. You can reach 50 miles an hour in first, you can be illegal in second, and you can go past or thereabout a ton in third. Top speed's about 160, but realistically the joy is really in the driving, like they say in the ads, and this seriously is a driver's car. Just listen. There are thought to be just 20 of these cars in the UK. This one is the factory's own pride and joy. Had luck not run against them all those years ago, the next step was going to be a V12 5-litre. In the end, it did appear. It was in the McLaren F1.
Now, if you're a regular viewer to Men and Motors, as I certainly hope you are, you've probably noticed over the past year or so that one of our favourite cars has been BMW's Z3. We've driven it in 1.9 and 2.8 versions. We've been to the factory in South Carolina to see it being made. So before you start thinking, oh no, not another Z3, well, this is a special one. This is BMW's M Roadster, a Z3 that's been given the M treatment. You can see immediately that this is no ordinary Z3. Enormous wheels and tyres, particularly flared wheel arches at the rear. There's a very low front spoiler and these gorgeous chrome trims either side, plus mirrors and dials exclusive to the M Roadster. So you get exclusive extras on the M Roadster, as you should do on a car costing as much as this. More about that a little later though. Inside you get some rather unusual colouring designs on the seats, which also run through to the fascia, all rather functional rather than particularly attractive. You get air conditioning, heated seats and a power hood, which works exactly as it should do, very well. But the real difference you notice in this car is when you start the beast up. Now, our test car is almost brand new. It's only done, what, 2,000 miles or so, and perhaps that's the reason why the gearbox on this particular car is so notchy. It needs a few more miles under its belt to really smooth out, and in fact, engaging reverse gear really can be a bit of a problem at times. The engine in this M Roadster is the 3.2 litre straight six taken from the M3. It produces 321 brake horsepower through those enormous rear tyres, and with no traction control, this is a car to be taken very seriously and treated with respect, if not a little bit of caution at times. Official performance figures for this car indicate an 0 to 60 time of 5.1 seconds and a top speed limited to 155 miles per hour. And I found that to really appreciate just how fast this car is, you really have to drive it very hard. So, what do we like, what don't we like about the M Roadster? Well, the brakes are absolutely excellent. They stop you dead when you need to stop. The suspension and ride is very good, if not a little hard, but it is a sports car after all. If you're over 6 feet tall, you'll feel a bit cramped in the cabin. The seat won't go further back than I'm sat here in it, and that could be a bit of a problem for some people. Also, there's no adjustable steering wheel, and if anything, the steering wheel could do with being a touch smaller. Now, we've been lucky enough today to have a bit of fun on this private airfield and put the M Roadster through its paces. If you want an M Roadster, it's going to cost you £40,570, which is an awful lot more money than the 1.9 and 2.8 Z3s, but you get a lot more performance, of course. You might also care to look, if you're in this sort of price bracket, at the Porsche Boxster, the TVR and the Lotus, which might, just might, give you a better driving experience.
We like to use the most modern technologies. Naturally, we want to make our cars come through with the best amount of quality all the way through to production to the client. But we don't want to do anything that's going to slow down or stop that beautiful creative flow. And boy, if you need crayons, we'll let you use crayons too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just that one or two car manufacturers, and frankly, I don't believe them. They say to me that everything these days is done by computer. Car designers still have to know how to pick up a crayon or a felt pen or a pencil and actually draw, don't they?
Well, I feel very strongly about that we're perhaps over-focused on a process and forgotten what our true tradition and heart is all about, and that's really being great creative sculpture. Right. These are the greatest sculptures on wheels.
And if we're talking about the architecture of this car, it seems to me that you've struck the perfect balance between that unmistakable modern BMW look with a bit of retro thrown in as well.
Well, that, of course, was the goal. I think you see a lot of details and a lot of form here, which says not only the past glory of BMW, but also where we're going in the future. I mean, this is definitely a car for now, a car for the future, but there's some things on this you just can't stop touching.
I mean, this bonnet, to everybody else out there, just an ordinary bonnet, just like any other bonnet, but it kind of sets a world record, this bonnet, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I've been told this is one of the world's largest pressings for a bonnet, but to me the most important thing is we've got this form, this beautiful, beautiful power bulge going across this without any disrupting cuts on it. And that's where the modern technology has to support these classic design rhythms.
And of course, it's not exactly inexpensive to design a car these days, is it? I mean, people will be staggered by the amount of money that might just go into a little bit of tweaking of a corner or the front grille or something like that.
Well, particularly at BMW, we want to do it right.
Yep.
And doing it right means you have to invest the time and the energy again and again to make sure the final piece is the highest quality.